Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Parent-Teen Connection podcast. It's a change in it, if anyone's seen this before. I'm in the driver's seat, isn't that fun? My name is Sam Eastop. I am an actor and a singer and general creative. I'm here with my mother, Rachel Eastop, a counselling psychotherapist.
Hi.
I remember that title. We're giving it a shot of me in the driver's seat this week, answering your comments, showing them on the screen, in control of everything. So, can I mute you? Can I get you off now? This is going to be fun. What are we going to talk about this week? We're going to talk about a few things. The question this week is how can we deal with mental strain during COVID, which is, that's a pretty good question. We are on the road out, possibly.
I've had my injection.
You've had your vaccine.
Number one, first vaccine, no side effects. Other than a bit sore, it's been bruised.
Yep.
But I've known people who've been so ill, really rough. But I've been fine.
Yeah, it's mental. I don't get mine until
ever.
Yeah. June, July, I can't even remember now. Yeah. So far away. But yeah, it was like a really quick process.
Can I just say that there was nobody there? We went to this. We went to the local church, a fairly big building. There was chairs laid out, 2 meters apart. There was probably about 8 rows of chairs. 3 of us. 2 of us were unioned up.
Yeah.
And we had to sit and wait. So we went in, we checked in, we gave them our piece of paper. Yeah. And they went, right, that's fine, you could take a seat and you could read these leaflets. So clearly that's what that was about. They wanted you to read the leaflets, the small print, right? And then, so you read the leaflets and then they came through, took all 3 of us through to another room where there was probably about 4, 6, I don't know, stations, only one's there again. I'm like, get them through.
Yeah, I know, it's mental.
I don't mean to be negative because I don't know the logistics of it all, but I'm like, I was expecting a queue.
Oh, yeah. That's the least thing you'd expect,
Yeah.
Is it to be empty.
And it was great because it just took minutes. But yeah, I was thinking, they laid out all of these chairs ready for all these people, and there wasn't all these people.
What time did you go? Was it morning?
It was 1:30 in the afternoon.
Wow. Maybe they got a morning rush or something and they got everyone through. I don't know. It kind of feels like it's a turn-up service though if it's that quiet. Do you know what I mean?
Right?
People haven't been walking in today.
Just come up and
off
go,
the street.
Here's my arm.
Yeah, I know.
But it's all a paperwork thing. You had to have the right letter and they had to type it in the doofer. Then they had to check who you were and then they checked. So it was checked who I was 3 times from 3 different iPads.
You passed.
I clearly did. I knew my date of birth.
That's great.
Which is always helpful.
That's always helpful. Yeah, totally.
And that seems to be how the NHS identify you. That's the only thing they want to know.
Your
date of birth and your name.
Aye.
Because those 2 things narrow you down quite.
Yeah, true. But that might have also been because it's all based off age, isn't it? And stuff, the vaccines.
Well, that's true. But no, they always ask you your date of birth.
Oh, fair enough. That's fair. Got a comment from Mandy Louise Paul. Hey, Sam and Rachel. Hi, Mandy. How you doing?
Hi, Mandy.
So today we're going to talk about a few things. I wanted to really talk about something that interests me because I'm a huge Marvel fan. If anyone out there has been watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, right? I'm not just going to be a nerd about it, right? It is this is a serious topic, but at the same time, it's great. It's really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. But there's a scene in the first episode and in the second actually as well, where one of the characters is dealing with is going through counselling or therapy. But it's mandated. They've been given it, by the government or prison or something. I don't know. And she's horrible, isn't she?
She's stern. She's not warm.
No, and those are words that you don't want to associate with counselling. Stern and not warm. Yeah.
Well, I suppose that there's several things wrong with that in the first place. I guess the mandatory part of it.
Yeah, that's true.
However, in certain, I think it should be available to certain. The police should have it on tap. Fire brigade have it on tap.
Yeah.
Emergency services have it on tap, and they don't necessarily.
Yeah.
The NHS do provide their staff with 4 to 6 sessions of counselling advice. Real investment in your staff's mental health there.
Yeah.
And but a lot of other services do. Soldiers, very little, as you know, PTSD.
Yeah.
But PTSD not just from war areas, it's from any kind of trauma related scenario.
Yeah.
So being available, but also, for example, if you operate a firearm, or if then assessing your mental health and mental well-being is part of that.
Yeah.
So she was there more of a, are you fit to do your job?
Yeah.
And it is my job to make sure you are.
Uh-huh.
So get your bum down there, sit there, answer my questions.
Why aren't you talking to me? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah.
Tell me everything.
Yeah.
So that I can sign you off.
Yeah.
More than it was, you've chosen to come and see me because you want to.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But yeah, you're right in that. Actually, it's one of my big bugbears as well. Is that how counselling, psychotherapy is portrayed?
Yeah, totally. In most media,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a massive issue. It's one of those things where I don't know. I get why it's done, because a lot of it is played for like comedic effect in the show as well. Like some of it's quite funny, but it's not a funny topic a lot of the time, and it could be like more accurately portrayed. Isn't there a show that you kept saying is like really good for like portraying
In treatment.
in treatment?
In treatment.
Right,
If you're
okay.
in therapy, it's like, it should have called it In Therapy, but it's probably something else it's called. There's actually a film called Bad Therapy, and I got, because I was actually looking up.
Called Bad
It's
Therapy.
Bad Therapy.
Wow.
I found this piece on the Insider, it's called, which is and basically
Yeah, I've read them before.
Yeah, so it's quite a long piece actually, but basically the title is, if I can get to the top, 16 fictional TV therapists ranked from least to most likely to ruin their patients' lives.
Well, I hope number one is Hannibal Lecter.
yeah. Do you know he's not on there? Actually, that's a really good
I
one.
immediately thought of Hannibal, because he's going to ruin their life by eating them. Going to kill them and eat them.
But actually, as a therapist, he was quite.
No, he was very good. He cared a lot about Hugh Dainsey. They played a character called Will. Yeah, that was it. Will. I really said Will all the time. He cared a lot about Will in the show. But yeah, I'm talking about the show. I love the Hannibal show. But.
So they were basically pointing out that. So the first one was The Sopranos.
Oh, I've not seen The Sopranos actually.
Neither have I. We're, to our shame.
It's on Sky. All of it's on Sky, and I can't
that
watch
needs to be
it.
something we do.
Yeah,
perhaps
absolutely.
over at
Yeah,
Easter.
definitely.
So, and the premise is that Tony Soprano, it starts off in episode 1, I think. Tony Soprano goes to his therapist, goes to a therapist, because he's actually at the age where he's done so much killing.
That he's like, I need to talk about this.
It's just,
I need to talk about this.
and the therapist in it's quite good, but unconventional. They were saying she's quite unconventional.
No, she's probably linked to the mafia. She's not going to be
Well, I was thinking, if I had a mafia boss come to me,
you'd want to get in their good books, right?
I would be quite unconventional.
Yeah. Totally.
But the other one that I'd forgotten about was Pretty Little Lies. I don't know if you've seen that.
No,
That's
not.
got Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, and latterly Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep's in it. Oh, I had no idea she was in that.
It is colossally good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that.
That's one that's my challenge to you then, is to watch that.
Okay.
Don't think it was Pretty Little Lies.
No, I haven't. I just haven't watched it yet. That's all.
And there's a therapist in there who's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically she detects the domestic violence that's going on in Nicole Kidman and her husband's life.
Right, so she picks it up without it being spoken.
And she challenges Nicole Kidman, who defends her husband and who doesn't want to admit the fact that this is going on. And she does it in a very gentle way. And her room is, so she's got a sofa with the two of them sit, and she sits in a nice armchair and she's talking to them face to face. Yes, she's got a clipboard, as they all seem to have. I don't take notes during sessions, but she's and she's very gentle in how she deals with Nicole's. And Nicole comes to see her on her own, because they come to see her as a couple to begin with, and then they go see her, and it's very, very good. But there are some absolute howlers. The worst one I've ever seen is, and I know it's meant to be funny, was in Extras with Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
And no, it was Afterlife with Ricky Gervais, not Extras. Afterlife.
Oh yeah, Afterlife. Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah, that guy's. Oh my gosh. he calls him names and stuff, doesn't he? He just bullies him. Horrible.
But I know he's meant to be horrific.
Yeah,
but Afterlife is such a touching, beautiful.
Also depressing. Sure.
It is slightly depressing, but it's done so well and acted so well. This character really stands out. Mm-hmm. He almost doesn't fit. He's there as the comedy relief
comic relief
in it, but at the same time, it's really disturbing. He's like, I just get really angry because I think this guy doesn't. He's damaging.
Yeah.
However, so that's one of your big things, is it? That you get my glasses off now.
I think there's something that interested me when I watched Hannibal again, bringing it back to that.
Oh, yeah.
Was that they're all, well, not they're all, but there's like quite a few characters that are like therapists and that, right? And then you see therapists going for therapy with their like colleagues or friends or whatever to like discuss what they have to discuss, and not like in depth or anything, but like, it's difficult. Is that like, I know it's a show about a cannibal, but is that something that therapists do?
Yes. So what I think you're talking about, if I can remember, is they're probably in group supervision. So that's another thing, we talk about amongst ourselves as therapists, is that although counselling and psychotherapy is still a non-regulated activity, in many ways anyone can call themselves a counsellor. They shouldn't. And you should always ask to see. No one ever asked to see my qualifications.
Yeah,
ever.
Yeah. But you'd be like, here they are, if you asked.
But asked to see you're asked to see if they've got insurance. Ask them if they've got if they're a member of an affiliated. Like, I'm a member of the British Association of Counsellors and Psychotherapists. They can't be a member, or certainly an accredited member, as I am, without being a counsellor. So these are sorts of checks that you can do, but we hold ourselves to a higher count. So we have to have 1.5 hours at least supervision, clinical supervision every month for our client work. And it's not just about bringing our clients to discuss with somebody more experienced than us, although that is part of it. It's also to check that my stuff's not been triggered by my client, that I am not bringing into the room my interpretation, my judgments, and I'm ethical with them. So we discuss the client. So what they'll do is, and part of that is also me talking about me and how I am and all that sort of stuff. If my stuff becomes too big, my supervisor might say, perhaps you want to go and take that to therapy because it's coming up a lot and it seems so big. But you can talk about stuff. So what you saw there was a group scenario where professionals, peers, if you like, people who've got to a certain level like myself, I have some peer, my colleagues and I might talk about clients, and we might discuss cases that are difficult and complex in the hope of helping us to work with the client. We don't give away any personal information. It's just about how you are with the client. So that's what you're seeing. Yeah,
I think in the show it was more like, it wasn't like a group thing. It was literally like, Mads Mikkelsen, who plays Hannibal, and I can never remember her name. She's in everything. She's in Sex Education. She's the mum. Gillian Anderson. Oh, yeah. And Gillian Anderson just like having a therapy session together. Like it was like she was there, like giving him therapy. Like rather than like a group setting, it was just those two.
Oh right, so he's taken his.
I felt like he was actually taking his stuff to her, but a lot of it was stuff to do with Will, because that was his patient, and also the person he was trying to like basically ruin.
I think I took that to be that it was his supervisor.
His supervisor, right? Okay.
Supervisor, yeah.
It makes sense. I thought that's what it was as well. Just always about like, is he getting like therapy, or like, is this just like supervision? I wasn't sure, but yeah. So there's a lot of like on-screen stuff like that that's interesting. That's the word we should use for that. Was there anything else on that list that we would know of? Like shows that we've seen?
No, I was quite disappointed.
Really?
Other than In Treatment, Sopranos, and The Pretty Little Lies.
What was number one to ruin the patient's life?
Well, I don't know if the countdown was, because actually number one wasn't that bad. I didn't read it all. I didn't have time. There's programs called You're the Worst and The Ex-Girlfriend and Broad City and Wanderlust. I've never seen any of these, so I have no idea. They're American ones.
So maybe just use like mainstream program.
13 Reasons Why.
Oh, yeah. Who's the therapist on that?
Mr. Porter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rarely has a show been so embroiled in as much controversy as 13 Reasons Why, which chronicles high schooler Clay's quest to understand why his crush Hannah took her life.
Yeah, that was a Yeah, I think I remember that now, actually.
He was a bit benign, if I remember.
Yeah. I can't. That was ages ago that I watched that, and I literally watched it all in a night. The first season, I haven't watched any of. I think it's like 3. Is it more than 3 seasons? I don't even know. But I've only watched the first season because it was just like, even though it was like controversial, it hooked me from like the first episode, and I watched the entire thing in like a night, from like 11 p.m. to like 4 a.m.
And it's actually good. These things are controversial because it stimulates conversation, and it means that things are not talked about.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
Which brings us on to. We've been looking at a few.
There was an article about teenagers, recently. It was in the Irish Times. This guy was obviously writing up books. That's what it was about mainly. But there was other stuff to it, obviously. Now I can't connect, obviously.
Doesn't matter. Can I? I'll tell you a little bit of padding around that. So one of the jobs that I used to do years ago was I was a youth worker, and I used to go around to schools and take sex education lessons and mental health and well-being workshops. Yeah. And their point is true in that in some ways we were just another professional coming round. But what I did was I actually did chuck the teacher out of the class. Yeah. And they were very happy to be chucked out.
Yeah, don't give me a break for an hour. Yeah.
And it actually meant that they were very forthcoming in what they said. And I played the Friends game with them. Right. There's the game, around Friends, but there's an 18 plus version. And I used to go in and work with the sort of 15 and 16-year-olds. And I would say to them, do you want to play the under 18 version or the over 18 version? And they always
picked the 18 plus version.
Because they're sex educated, so I wanted them to choose the over 18 version. And I would put them into 2 groups, and they'd be one against the other. And it stimulated so much conversation. It was brilliant. But this guy,
I like what this guy's got to talk about. He said it gives a whole like spiel, but basically it's an ordinary day. One of the most significant of his entire career. A workshop in a school. The group was made up of 75 young people aged 16 to 17. And they were always a bit awkward right at the start. Young people were sizing him up and making their early judgments, all that kind of stuff. He was just one of the well-intentioned adults who come in and preach to them about how to live their lives, ? Or was I worth their time and attention? So this is kind of what he's talking about. He started off by telling them about a period of depression that he had experienced a few years ago, how the subsequent breakdown made him want to stop living, and as he spoke, barriers between him and the kids fell away, eyes widened, hoodies were pulled back. They knew I was not there to patronise them with neatly packaged advice on how to succeed in life, but I was there to be real with them, which is, I think, what's really important, is being real with them rather than being like, I'm giving you a script right now, and I'm telling you what you need to hear. It's like, I'm being real with you, which is what I guess people of that age want. So, so he's done this all over the world, basically, and he knew this was kind of how they wanted to be talked to. The workshop was going well, and the usual tendency of watch what you say or you could be made fun of, you gradually dissolved. In its place was an openness they'd never experienced with anyone apart from their best friends. At the first break, one girl came up to him and asked if he could ask the teacher to leave, which is what you said you'd do at the start of every lesson. She told him her name was Chloe. There was something they wanted to talk about as a group, and they would be more comfortable if they were alone with just him. He said, look, your teacher was a teenager once and they went through all the same stuff you guys do, so cut them some slack. I know it would be easier for you, but for my safety and for yours, they have to stay. And if anything comes up that needs following up, then they will be in a position to help. That was not good enough for Chloe and her best friend standing beside her, so I tried again. They are not stopping you talking, you are stopping yourselves because you're afraid of what they will think of you. Don't give anyone the permission to silence you, and if you have something to say, you have a voice to use it. This broke through their steely face expressions and they returned to their seats. We just started the second part of the workshop when the same girl raised her hand. What happened next brings tears to my eyes even to this day, he says. We have something to talk about as a group, she said. My friend died by suicide a few months ago and we haven't talked about it since. He was my best friend. Everyone in this class knew him, some very well, some not so well, but everyone is feeling broken and yet it feels like the adults don't want to talk about it with us. And why do you think that is? Is it because the teachers aren't trained to talk about that kind of stuff?
I think the teachers fear that because they're not trained, they might say the wrong thing. Yeah.
All of a sudden, she seems bigger to him, as if she was standing taller. She stared at him through him almost, as if she was about to scream. It felt good, as if this needed to happen. Why do you think the adults haven't talked to you about your best friend and how he died? He asked her. Because they're afraid, she said, which is what you thought. Afraid of what? They're afraid we won't be able for it, that if they are honest with us and allow us to talk about why it happened, that we will either copy him or are too weak to be able to handle the conversation. But mostly they're just afraid to be honest with us, like they are with many things, and they think we don't see what's really going on. But we do, and it's time they stop sugarcoating life in it and insulating us from the truth. She had barely finished her sentence when a round of applause broke out across the room. We talked about his friend, his life, what he meant to her and his other friends in the room. There were tears and there was laughter at how unique he was. It felt like some healing had happened for that group of young people who took control and talked together about something they loved. And that was like months after. He said it was months ago. So that it took them months to get that kind of like closure, I guess, about it.
Yeah.
And it was from someone else. It wasn't, their teachers or whatever they see every day.
Can I just say a few things around that? I think that some adults worry, again, that, one person takes their own life, it's going to cause a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing for people to understand is that taking your own life is no mean feat. Mm. And if someone gets to the point where they are able to do that, they have made a decision, and it's usually based around the fact that taking themselves out of the scenario would be the best thing to happen. Removing me solves the problem.
Which is never the case.
And exactly, but that's what they believe. And you can't get to that unless that's real. Because so no one's gonna, yes, they could be coerced into taking their own life in the same way that Manson did.
Charles
Manson did back in the days.
One of the most prolific serial killer in the world, Thingy Manson.
Well, he didn't do the murdering himself.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we said, prolific, and yet you
that's right. But the coercion around it. So he got other people to do something that he wanted to do. That's rare, and that takes a skill. So, you shouldn't not talk about something because you think if we talk about it, everybody's going to want to do it, because that's ridiculous. The other thing was, there was an occasion where, and as a school counsellor, quite often, if there is a suicide or there's something that happens, the teachers will push the kids towards the counsellor or even CAMS or professionals, so that they know what to do with them. But actually there is a huge amount of healing in a group. And I remember one of our local schools, say 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there was a school trip to London, and one of the girls I think she had an epileptic fit and died.
Wow.
And they were in a sort of dormitory type scenario, so there was rooms where there was 3 or 4 girls and 3 or 4 boys in each room, up and down the corridors. It might have been a bed and breakfast, in a hotel, it might have been I think it was a hotel actually. And of course, it was massively traumatic. So not only had this girl died, she died in quite a dramatic way, in a room with other girls. There were other people to find the body and come and do, and then police arrived, an ambulance arrived. There was a whole thing. And of course, it's a little bit like Murder on the Orient Express in terms of this corridor with these doors opening and people coming in and out and lots of things happening. Yeah. So we heard about it, my colleague and I heard about it. We were counsellors in the school. And we offered what's called critical incident stress debrief, which has to happen within 72 hours of the incident happening. And we had it was an entire year group, I think. Well, it was those that had paid to go to London. So it was maybe, say, 50 kids, right? Let's just say 50 kids. And we put them into 5 groups of 10, and they were mixed. So we mixed everybody up. So we mixed those that were first-hand witnesses to those who were slept through the whole thing, right? And we put them all together, and you go through a series of, so first of all, you write down the facts, what happened. So we took them from the moment they left Dunfermline to the moment they came back, and the days in between and everything that they did. We wrote down the whole lot to the incident, because the incident, I think, happened 2 days or 24 hours into the whole thing. I wrote it down, and then you go into thoughts. What were your thoughts? And we've got everybody's thoughts on it all, and then everybody's feelings. And in doing so, you get a collective picture of what happened, which is really important, because people think about false memories. That was another thing we were looking at. People remember things differently. And when we did our training, we were told about, so this is used in things like Dunblane and Lockerbie and those kind of big incidents. We're talking about an occasion in Glasgow where a factory blew up. It was years and years ago, 30, 40 years ago. And it was next door to a primary school. And unfortunately, the primary school kids who were watching this happen from the window saw a man who was on fire running out of the building. And the building exploded. It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah,
the building exploded and this man was thrown forward, right? And when they did the critical incident debrief with the kids, one of the kids said, and of course they shot him. And everyone, and the woman who was, and of course you can't debunk what people say. So the facilitator thought, that sounds unusual. So she said, does anybody else remember that? And the kids went, that's not what happened. It exploded, and of course the explosion sounded like a bullet. So this little boy would have gone through his life believing that if you're on fire, you get shot, or you get put down like and that would have perpetuated maybe a fear or a phobia within him. But actually, in that moment, he was able to go, "Oh right, oh that's what happened," and the story. The narrative, which is what we all recreate around everything, has a truer picture.
Yeah.
So, what the great thing about going back to that article is that he was able to bring the class together of those that knew him, those that didn't know this lad that took his life, allow this girl and those that were close to him to find their voice and to speak out. How they were feeling, to cry about it, to have their community, their family of friends around them, to offer that support so that they're known, so that on the days when they are snappy or withdrawn or, they can say, I haven't been sleeping, I haven't been eating, I've been hurting myself, the rest of the group know and can make allowances for that, adjust for it, but also check in and go, you okay today? Because, and in an environment where there's always going to be one or two people who cannot cope with that kind of reality and make light of it or make a joke of it because that's their defence. But in the main, I think that sort of age group, 16, 17, they're able to actually hear it and be quite real about it.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And also the other point I was trying to make is when I'm working one-to-one with somebody, it's very rare, if ever, that they would ever know anything about my life.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Because it's not important. We've only got an hour and it's about them. If I did a group thing, I might be more revealing, self-disclosing about myself. And part of that is because you are trying to let other people know, do you know what, I kind of understand because I've had, and it's very few, I defy anyone who's not been through something in their life,
true.
And so somehow that gives you credibility in the eyes of others. Sometimes it's necessary in order to do that, for them to go, oh, okay, I'm safe to speak, to say to you because you'll get it. Yeah. Anyway.
That's mad.
Interesting. Any comments?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Other than Mandy. You said to me that you had a challenge for me, didn't you?
I did.
On the way here. Do you want to disclose that information? Because I wasn't told what it was.
Well, I came up with an idea. Right, here's my idea.
Okay.
Last week we said we were going to do a Challenge Sam series, and nobody has challenged Sam with anyone.
Nobody.
Nobody.
A single person.
All forgotten. So I came up with a challenge for you. I am going to transfer £10 into your bank account. Okay? And in a month's time, I want that £10 back.
Okay.
But you can do 3 things with it in that month. You can do nothing with it and give me my £10 back. You can spend it, but I still want my £10 back. Or you can increase it, do something valuable with it. Okay? So, that's the challenge. But also, it comes from a biblical parable called the parable of the talents.
Right.
And it made me think about talents is, you are more than just the money, the tenner that I've given you, in that you have talent, you have personality, you have intelligence, you have the nature and nurture scenario of what I've passed on to you. So I'm actually I've passed more than the tenner on to you. So the challenge is Not that I want my tenner back at the end. It's what are you going to do with what you've been given?
Okay.
And that is the biggest thing that all of us, all of us have been given something. All of us have been given money, but we've all been given something. And the challenge is, what are you going to do with what you have been given?
Right, okay.
So it's a holistic kind of thing. I'm giving you an incentive, and then I'm giving you tenner's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the challenge is it gives you something to focus on. And you can do something completely different, but I'm not going to give you any suggestions of what you do. That's up to you.
Okay.
All right?
Interesting. When you say increase it, that's I don't even know how I would give you £15 back. And
but it can't come out of your account. If you're gonna give me if you're gonna make £15, give me a tenner and keep I only want £10 back. You could make $1 million out of that. You could put it on the lottery for all I care, right? But I still want my £10 back at the end of the month.
Okay, cool, awesome. I can do that.
You can do something else with it.
Okay.
All right.
Nice. Like an adoptive seal. You know how you do that? You can like adopt animals. I don't know. It's a good idea. Mandy said, I could not think of anything for Sam. We had no ideas. That's fine. That's absolutely fine if you couldn't think of anything. If you do think of anything, just literally comment it on here because these are stay on Facebook and I'll check. Or YouTube, whatever. I
tell you what, Mandy, I know that you're a fan of Trading Glances.
Who isn't, am I right?
So we could challenge Sam and the lads.
Be careful what you say.
Careful what you say. To do something with the next phase of their. No, you're not going to do anything.
No. You can't do anything at the minute because of COVID. It's restrictions, and if we don't have any restrictions, then yeah, sure. But
I know you've got things up your sleeve. Be creative.
Yeah, we do, but again, we have things up our sleeves, so they stay up the sleeve. Okay. She just said yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing to say, I guess. We're also looking at, so the main topic of today, the main question of today was how can we deal with mental strain during COVID, and what is the answer to that?
Oh, right.
Mental toughness.
Mental toughness, okay.
Mental toughness, what would you say mental toughness is? Do you have a dictionary definition of that, or?
Well, it's part of resilience. There's a few things to say about resilience. I used to think that resilience was bounce back ability. That's what I used to call it. It's how you bounce back. So sometimes if it's a bouncy ball and you throw that bouncy ball against that wall, it comes back. Yeah. Right? If you throw a raw egg at a wall, it's just going to go splat. Yeah. And it's going to go seep down the wall. Now there are times when we are splatted against the wall.
Yeah, right? That's true.
And we find it difficult to bounce back. And but actually, when you throw something at the wall, it never really comes back to that same point. And it's an interesting thing. We've been talking about time travel and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, we watched Tenet.
And the idea is that you're changed. You're forever changed sometimes by things that happen. COVID will never be the same.
Yeah, it's true.
People talk about it's a new norm, don't they? They talk about that. They say it can't go back to the way that it was because we'll never be the same after this. And so you don't bounce. Where do you bounce back to? You might bounce to a different place. So I might have to catch it over here. But actually, resilience is bouncing forward. It's like you bounce the ball and then it goes forward. On a table and it goes forward, yeah. So the bouncing is not against the wall, it's against the floor. And you bounce forward, you're in a forward motion because we are always in a forward motion because we can't go back in time. It's a bit like what Tenet says, we're always going through and then backwards. Exactly, right. I was spent so long trying to make my mum understand the film Tenet. It was ridiculous. I showed her YouTube videos and stuff and everything. Do you still feel like you understand it? I do understand the premise. I understand. Okay, well that's a start. Understanding the premise. I mean, that's what you need to watch the film, I guess. Yes. I'm never satisfied with films that leave question marks. Yeah, I am because they said they closed all the gaps. The guy said that. He said that everything was answered and everything was put in place at the end. It wasn't.
Yeah.
There was no flaw in its quantum thinking.
Well, yeah, because everything that's happened has happened. So, like, you have to have done something. Like, I have to have moved my chair there for me to now look in this position.
Sure. Because that thing that Back to the Future talks about is an alternate timeline.
Yeah, it does that, and that's so does like the Avengers and all that. Avengers is like, oh, Back to the Future is a bunch of bull and all that, and then it just proceeds to follow the exact same plot as Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But like Tenet is the only one where it, like, time travel. It's not like it's not that you jump back 10 years in an instant. It's that, like, if you're gonna go back in time, you have to literally relive 10. If you're going back 10 years, you have to live 10 years again, but going backwards. And everything that has happened is going to happen, but you're going to see it happening in reverse. So, like, it has to have happened. It can't just be different. You know what I mean? Because otherwise you wouldn't have got there. Like, it has to have happened. You know what I mean? And that's like, at the end of it, that's what Neil says. It's a statement of trust in the mechanics of the world or something like that. And it's like how that all happens. How, you know, everything that's happened has happened, and that's like what most time travel films don't really follow that rule. They can just change it and do alternate stuff, whereas that one just always is the same.
So can I just close a little hole in my head? Sorry about this, guys. Bear with us. So the girl, the female in it, the one who was married to the whatever he is, and the protagonist. Okay, so she on the boat, because she goes back in time, she has to live out that period of time to meet herself, because her we can't say anything about it because haven't watched it. But if she goes back in time, she has to be in a flat, say somewhere, live out that period of time from that holiday.
He said that in the video. He said, yes, just hide away for like 2 weeks. Now, or whatever.
Did the protagonist help her out? Because he's kind of masterminding the whole thing.
Yeah, he'll have helped
from the future
to everyone. Yeah.
So he's observing her, so he knows.
Yeah. And then he said that's why he was like, oh, anytime you feel danger, just call me, state your time and place, and then I can just be like, if I get that call and I've already missed it, I can just like go back in time before then meet you at that point, and then make sure that nobody's there to. Which is why she phoned it, and then he was there before she'd made the call. Yes.
How did he do that?
Okay, it's not okay. So think about.
We're taking up too much time.
No, it's fine, right? Just think about it, right?
Okay.
Your brain isn't moving forward. Just stop thinking like that, okay?
Right.
They're moving through time, and she says, I am scared right now.
Yeah.
I'm scared at 11:07 on the 29th of March, right? And he gets the phone call at this exact time. He reads the voicemail 10 days from now. He goes, oh, okay. Gets in the thing, reverts back 11 days to the day before, so yesterday, right? He's now there. He's also there 10 days ago, but in his timeline he hasn't done that yet. But he's now a day ago. He then waits until now, and a guy was about to walk in and shoot me, but he's already shot him.
But in the other timeline, she does get shot though.
There's no other timeline.
Because she's phoned up, so the guy's coming. I'm in danger. Yeah,
or she's gone. Oh, car's pulled up. I feel a bit uneasy.
Yeah.
It's fine because the guy's got that call reverted back, then reverted back again. So he's now going forward in time, but to before now, and is waiting there and has shot the guy that was going to come.
Because
but it's
11:05, we never get past 11:05, do we?
Yeah.
Because he's already. All right. Okay. Fair enough.
Oh, okay, he can go past 11:05, but he has to then revert back before 11:05 and then come back. It's not that confusing as soon as you stop thinking linearly. As soon as you stop thinking like, but time is going that way. As soon as you allow yourself to reverse.
That is actually how you have to think of it.
Well, no, because that's how we think of it. But the film is like, stop thinking like that. You know what I mean? It's one of those amazing films where like only Christopher Nolan could do that and like get away with it and make a profit. He didn't even make a great profit because he came out in the pandemic, but like it still made a profit, and it's like the most confusing film of all time. Like Inception blew people's minds, but this one is like times 100 that. People just didn't really understand what was going on at the end. They were like, why was the spinning top still spinning? But like everyone had an answer for that within like 2 weeks because like people, or a couple of years, people theorized. But this film just came out like less than a year ago, so everyone's still theorizing about it. But
okay.
As soon as you like watch it enough times and you've watched enough of the videos, you really understand like what's going on. And I'm just there, and it's so frustrating when people don't get it. I understand why if you don't get it, but I'm just there like, how you don't get this? But yeah.
Okay. That's
one of those films. Anyway, Mental Toughness is what we're on. So yeah, this person, I've got an article here. The recent passing of the 1 year mark since COVID started, which is mental, by the way. It's been a year since COVID started, since the whole lockdown started. Long-term effects have become more apparent. Not only has the virus taken over 2 million lives so far, which is horrific. It's also had a profoundly detrimental impact on mental health of billions of people across the globe. Right. Yeah. Research on Chinese citizens at the start of a pandemic found that symptoms of anxiety, depression, and stress were common reactions to the pandemic, which is something that mirrored your research that you found, right? We've already talked about on this before a few times. These effects were mirrored in other countries, increased over time, which we just said. A more recent study in the US found that 1 in 4 adults reported symptoms of anxiety and depression, and increased from 1 in 10 in 2019. So from 1 in 10 to 1 in 4, which is a huge increase. For some, the increased levels of stress and anxiety have also been accompanied with poorer sleep and increased alcohol and substance use, exacerbating mental health problems further. What is mental toughness? Mental toughness is about more than just having resilience and control in difficult situations. It relates to a psychological frame of mind that endorses confidence and commitment to success. Psychologist Peter Cloud describes mental toughness as a combination of the following: the amount of control a person believes they have over their life and emotions.
Right, can we stop at each one of these?
Yeah. So the amount of control a person believes they have over their life and emotions.
The amount of control a person believes that they have over their life.
Again, it's that
really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And it can be, so for example, you could have a CEO of a company whose responsibilities and is, he's a board of directors, and although he's got a high powered job, he may not feel massively in control because the board may be making a decision that he doesn't agree with. Yeah. Okay. But you also might have somebody, and no disrespect to anybody, but let's say a guy works at a bar, right? Mm-hmm. And all he has to do is make a lot of money, but he makes cocktails. A bit like you, right? So he's a mixologist, he's making cocktails every day. He might have no responsibility, no weight on his life in terms of, and he might feel massively in control, right? So it's not about, always a thing about mental well-being or mental illness, is it doesn't respect anyone. Yeah. It doesn't care. You know, how you feel and how you perceive your situation is a thing. Right, carry on.
How much commitment is placed upon achieving goals despite hardship?
Yes. So it's about I'm going to be doing this thing. Yeah. No matter what. Yeah. And it might be that I have to delay for a year, or I have to change the way that I'm doing things, adapt. The adaptability is massive as well. So it's about, does the adversity bend you, or does it break you? Because being bent in the wind,
it's fine.
It's fine.
Again, you can come back from that.
Because that's flexibility.
Yeah.
But if you're so rigid that you break, then it's never going to work out for you. So it's about flexibility. It's about adaptability.
I think I'm one that's quite bad for that. Like if something, like just using an everyday example, but like if I'm like, oh, I'll go for a run today, and it's raining, do it tomorrow. Can't be arsed. I mean. Yeah, I'm like that. And that's like a very small thing. Not like I'm gonna become a millionaire or whatever. But like it's just like little things again. Or like I remember like when I was at college, especially not uni because I worked hard at uni, but at college when I was like procrastinating and it was like, oh, I just can't think of anything to write, so I'll just do it tomorrow. Or like rather than being like, can't think of anything to write, maybe I can just like spitball ideas and then like write something from that or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And that's like just like either laziness or procrastination. It's just like not tackling stuff, is just kind of putting it off, which is I people do that and I understand why people do that, but
there's also motivators.
Yeah, exactly, totally.
So a motivator might be a deadline.
Yeah, but even with deadlines, I was still like, I can do it tomorrow. I've got a whole night before it's due. I can do it. That's fine. But motivators are good. Yeah, totally. Being able to see potential threats as opportunities for self-development.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
That really is like flipping stuff on its head. That's like the definition of having a positive mindset, like being an optimist, isn't it?
It is. It's seeing, what's the wording again?
Being able to see potential threats as opportunities for self-development.
Yeah, you see the term potential threat, and based on what we've said before about trauma, somebody who has a built-in trauma response based on traumatic experiences may perceive a potential threat differently to others.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and the terminology potential threat, it's not an adversity, it's not a potential threat. That could be life-changing or life-affecting. So, yeah, seen as a threat as an opportunity. What did it say? Sorry, love.
Being able to see potential threats as opportunities for self-development.
Right. Opportunity.
For self-development.
For self-development.
It's not just an opportunity for self-development. That's the bit you need to focus on.
I can learn through this situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the learn, sometimes at the time, we don't see the learning. It's on reflection that we see the learning.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we're too busy dealing with it. So if somebody says it, so for example, a guy might be saying he's going to be laid off, right? He's been working for the company for 30 years and they're laying off staff. He's in his 50s, so he's a bit early to retire. He might get a decent package, but not massive, and he was hoping to. So he's got maybe 10 years left of potentially working life. Now, he might say to himself, right, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to spend this time, because they're giving me 6 months, spend this time doing a bit of night school, learning a different skill, so that I can go into a different field. He might say, well, that's it, my life's over, I'm going to have to sell my house.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. No, that makes sense. Continuing to strive in changing environments, that's basically just being able to deal with change rather than it. I guess it can frighten you and it can frighten everyone, but it's all about how you handle that. Whether it's like change, you don't want that and like running away from it, or it's just like striving with change. So just going with the flow could be, I guess, but like in a good way. I guess continuing to strive in changing environments is quite. I thought thrive, but strive is interesting.
To keep going in when things are changing around you. And the thing is that we all say we hate change, and we can all relate to that. But the sheer fact that we are living organisms and we are travelling through time, and we are aging, the children are growing up, we are aging. There's a constant change.
Things don't change. Yeah.
Nothing stays the same.
I know.
And the fact that we're never on board with it. There's a constant collective resistance to change.
I know. Have to wear masks. No. The level of confidence a person has in succeeding despite setbacks.
Level of confidence the person has in succeeding
despite
the setbacks.
So I'm gonna succeed, but even though I've just been told that I can't get that promotion, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna get it, just not right now.
Yeah, it's not being crushed by something that's come along, something that hasn't worked out. And the thing is that, I've done it myself. I've seen a job and I've gone, oh, that's an amazing job. I'm going to apply for that job.
Yeah.
I am the best person in the world for that job. And then you put in your application and your CV, and you get an interview, and you think it's meant to be. Bloody going to get this job, right? Because this job is meant for me, by the way. And you put everything in this job, right? And then you don't get it.
Yeah.
They give it to somebody who already works for the organisation or some other numpty, whatever.
Yeah, I know.
You don't get the job. And there's the crushing disappointment but only because that person has not let you down. You've let you down.
Yeah.
Because you have gone into that with a mindset.
Yeah.
Now you kind of have to go into the mindset of, I need to go into this interview as if I've got
Yeah.
I need to be as confident as anything. But it's picking yourself back up from the being smashed against the wall, basically.
All these things could be like branched under PMA, positive mental attitude, though, as well. Do you know what I mean? Just literally like being positive about everything.
Well, it's the classic thing of the glass half full or half empty.
Yeah,
it's bottle, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like, and actually, the truth is that there are optimistic people and pessimistic people. And the thing that makes these people optimistic and pessimistic is often both nature and nurture scenarios. And I work a lot with pessimism and turning that into optimism. So it's a changing of the mindset.
Yeah.
It's helping people to think of things differently.
Yeah.
And and that's basically what he's trying to say, and that's the basis of, it's not just resilience, because resilience is often attributed to those with optimistic outlooks. So it's a number of things pulled together. And I was saying to you, wasn't I, in the car, that a lot of research around, for example, that the research might be childhood adversity causes depression and anxiety in 60% of the population, of those who've experienced adversity. Not the whole population. I'm making this up, right? So of all the people that have experienced this one thing, 60% of them, say, have anxiety and depression and mental health issues. But 40% of them don't. 40% of them go on to, have successful lives, do well, they never have.
What do they focus on? They focus on 60% rather than the 40%.
So all of the research goes into the anxiety and depression treatment and identification and all of that kind of stuff. But they should be looking at, what of these 40% of people, what's their secret?
Yeah, finding, that's kind of what I guess this is trying to do. I've had a couple of comments here, I've only got 10 minutes left. Jamie McLean says, I know everyone says they can't wait to get back to normal, but what is normal anymore? Today's normal is to wear masks, stay away from everyone, and sanitize wherever you go anywhere. Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess if we're on the topic of mental toughness, I guess how is that for you, Jamie? Is that I don't want to go outside because this is now this and I don't like it, or is it, well, that's what it is and that's what I'm gonna have to do if I want to go out and do stuff. Like if I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna have to wear a mask. If I want to go to the shop, I'm gonna have to, or does he just not bother? I'm asking you that, so there's an actual question for you. Joe Laughlin says, morning guys, I hope you're both well. We are both well. Hi Joe. You're a bit late, Joe. Nah, I'm joking. I think that's a lot of good points there. I think there's a couple of things I just want to read from this article. Even those facing temporary furlough were more likely to report high levels of distress. This is because the psychological impact of unemployment goes far beyond financial instability. A job provides a sense of purpose and brings a sense of control to people's life. Taking this away at a time when people are isolated with a limited sense of freedom can further diminish well-being. So taking away jobs and stuff. I know from experience that when I lost my job right at the start of the pandemic, before they gave us them back within a couple of days, I was just I have no idea what to do. I was numb. I was
Shock.
What? I had a job
Denial.
2 hours ago and now I don't.
Can we just keep to that just a second?
Yeah.
Because it was a thing that I was, going on from what Jamie was saying and what you've just said there. When we work with grief, we often follow the Kubler-Ross kind of process because, uncomfortable and painful as it may be, grief is a process and it's part of life. And the stages of grief don't necessarily run in this particular order, but there's often shock. The first words people say is no, when you tell them something that's unexpected. No, that can't be right, can't be right. Denial, but surely I need to go and see for myself. This has actually happened. This can't be right. I can't believe what you're telling me. And then there's anger. Who's responsible for this? What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And then there's when you're debating or you're arguing about it. Let's do this instead. Well, why can't we do that? Right. So these are the stages of any kind of process, in a sense, that we find uncomfortable. And so, the last phase is acceptance, it's submission, and it often feels like a very submissive thing to do. If I accept something, then I'm saying it's okay when it's not okay.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes acceptance is saying, I accept that this is the reality. I might not like it, but I have to live in this.
Yeah.
Of perhaps for the next few years, wearing masks, keeping a distance until we are absolutely sure. And yes, we'll have to implement these things into our lives. But if I continue to resist it, then life's going to be really difficult for me.
I know. And Joe's just said, someone just reversed into my car. I had to go sort it out. Hope it's okay.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, Joe. Wow.
I was joking. Sorry. I hope that's okay. You make a lot of good points. Jamie's come back after I asked him about that. He says, well, today I'm going to school. and I'll have to wear a mask and social distance whilst walking into the building, and then in class we sanitize 3 times. But in 2 weeks I'll be back full time with another 1,200 people.
I know.
And then he said, so I am a little worried about going back because I know not everyone wears masks or sanitizes. I know people in my year are having big parties every weekend, and I'm sitting beside them a day later. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like you can be a mentally tough person and you can be ready for what life throws at you, but you can't be prepared for what other people do.
Yeah. These
idiots that are going out there and partying, every weekend in a pandemic. You can be prepared for like what the main thing, but like if people are being irresponsible, then it's like you can't just deal with that. You can't just It's just not fair. And Mandy also says I'm scared to go back to normal life. So yeah, we're getting a lot of that so far.
Mandy. And the reality is that even possibly a year and a half later, there will be people who have spent the last year and a half not obeying the rules, not getting COVID, and having no members of their family or anyone that they know affected. They will come out of this as if nothing has ever happened. And that, in fact, that's a definition of privilege in a sense, because they have acted as if things don't apply to them.
Yeah, totally.
And, they can come from all walks of life, these types of people.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the really difficult thing.
Yeah, it is.
I think when we all come out of this, because those that have not kept the rules will have been clocked.
Yeah, I know. Probably.
They'd have been clocked by
a lot of people.
And that'll be an interesting thing, as to how is our society and community going to deal collectively with that.
I know. Got a comment here from Oddbod Holly saying, I could see the anger in the nursing staff when I was in. The wards I was on were empty, but they can't go help on other wards. You can see they are suffering, not being able to help. The frustration must be overwhelming. They're struggling mentally. Yeah. That's
the thing that we, again, we've kind of sort of forgotten about this time round. Audrey, I hope you're well, and I hope you're okay. Looking forward to seeing you again. But so Audrey had a spell in hospital, so she's seen firsthand how in this second lockdown, we've kind of not really learned from the first one.
No.
But I suppose if you're in a ward and you're a nurse, you have to stay. It's kind of like bubbling. It's like you can't move from this place because this is your working environment. And although you have absolutely nobody to look after, you still have to come to work,
sit here. Yeah.
You still have to do your shift, and you have to know that your colleagues have a different experience. And that eats away at you when you're in a caring profession.
I know. That's tough, that one. Jamie says, I know at least 50 people in my year who haven't stuck to the rules through any of this. They would rather party every weekend than have a summer with family. Yeah, it's those people that are like, I'm living now and I'm going to do this now. And it's like, if you just don't do this now, in like the summer, you can have a great summer if we all just obey rules. But people always want to do it now, and then that's what will cause a second or third wave, and then, will possibly potentially make us not get out of it, which, God forbid, but hopefully it doesn't happen.
And also, I suppose it highlights how I don't know the lives of these individuals, but it's that kind of self-denial, that sacrifice is just not there. It's one of the things that happens in the war, for example. People have likened this, this is our generation's war. But and maybe people in the war times were not taking it seriously and doing what they wanted. We don't know. When you were talking about, what was that, with the speakeasies and the...
Oh yeah, I was saying how, I just wanted to mention how I did this mixology course, and the history lesson was in 1920, the Prohibition started in the US. And, it was meant to make people more effective in their lives, bring happiness, boost and improve the economy. Yet it did all the opposites of that. People... it got more depressed. There was jobs laid off because people couldn't make alcohol anymore. They went into loads of debt and depression and all that kind of stuff. And their speakeasies opened up. People rebelled against that. And of course, the booze was all done by mob bosses. They're like, we'll sell you the booze, but they made it all out of like methanol, which is not what you want in it. It's like bad liquor, and so people were drinking this bad liquor, and it's even worse for them. But of course, they were doing that, weren't they? They were in the speakeasy bars just drinking, and then the police knew of them and were in the speakeasy bars because they were owned by the mob. So.
Yeah.
It was 20 years of just it being completely useless. Yeah. And it didn't do what they wanted to do at all. Adam Beanie says, maybe they don't have a family, Jamie. Not everyone comes from a loving home. It's a fair point, but I still think it doesn't really matter if you come from a loving home or not. You can obey the rules or you can decide to ignore them.
I mean, let's go on from Adam's point here. That's why I was saying, I don't know the circumstances. If you are living in an environment of domestic abuse, psychological, physical, emotional abuse, severe poverty, you're just chucked out of the house anyway, it's understandable, because we've said before that teenagers, their family, their attachments and their connections with their friends. So actually, let's not maybe look at it as them rebelling and having parties and having fun, although I acknowledge that Jamie's saying that they are, some are. It's actually possibly about being with your tribe, finding acceptance and connection and belonging. Yeah. In survival. Yeah. So,
we get why, that they want that to happen, but just fortunately that's against the rules, just can't allow. But again, if we just obey, you will be able to get back to those people soon. That's just an hour. We're done. That's for this week.
Well done,
Good discussion. A lot of people joined in later on to discuss, which is great. I wanted to talk more because it's been great, when more comments come in, but we have to finish, unfortunately. But thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you for getting involved in the discussion. We hope you enjoyed. We'll be back again next week at 10:30. I might be in the driver's seat. I might not. We'll just see. We're probably going to do, I think I'm probably in it next week, and then we'll probably rotate every other week or something like that. I'm just going to leave that on the screen for everyone to read while I say bye. I got my COVID-19 vaccine on Friday evening and I felt like I have been hit by a bus, but hopefully in a day or two I'll feel the benefits of being protected, says Joe. Yeah, you will, trust me. Mum was saying at the start how she got hers and was feeling a bit better. Did you take paracetamol? Paracetamol before and after is what people have been saying. So for your second one, there you go, wee tip. But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week, and have a great week.
Bye. Bye.